Hello, my name is Dr. Cheryl Burdette, and I am the Educational Director for Origins Incubator. And this is a unique place where we come together to structure business practices, but probably most importantly, where we find community. And within this community, we get to share all kinds of clinical pearls, things that we've learned from various conferences, bounce ideas off one another, and really think about what are some of those next steps. So, for example, in terms of somebody who was suffering from migraines, we would know that there's a lot of clinical data to support dietary change, that even basic things like hydration and management of caffeine intake, getting people off processed foods, making sure they're not hypoglycemic, limiting foods that trigger an IgG reaction. All of these are shown in the literature to improve migraines. From there, we think about our magnesium to help stabilize vessels so we don't have this back and forth between constriction and too much dilation that makes the head hurt. We think about things like fish oils that have been shown to decrease inflammatory prostaglandins that are at play in something like a migraine. And of course, stress reduction, because this can be a big trigger. So now, when we've got those basics in place and we're still seeing someone who's suffering, what are some of those next steps? So in a case that we were visiting this week, what we discovered is a unique part of her presentation is that she was very non-specifically reactive, and she'd done food sensitivity testing and eliminated those foods, but was still having issues, still struggling. And so we talked about the fact that in greater than 80% of migraine sufferers, diamine oxidase is low, and that's the enzyme that is made in the fingertips of the microvilli. It degrades histamine. It can tell us if our mucosal lining is not where it should be, but it also means we won't break down histamine at the rate that we should. So anywhere in the body where there's histamine receptors, we're likely to have impact. So for example, the central nervous system has a lot of histamine receptors. This is why Benadryl will make us sleepy because it's calming down histamine in the brain that's more neuroexcitatory. So we see these interactions, but histamine, when there's excessive amounts in the brain, can also trigger a migraine. And so now when we think about these other mechanisms of action, it gives us direction to go in terms of clinical care. First of all, we can use diamine oxidase, and what we discussed is often for diamine oxidase at the onset of a migraine can really stop that acute presentation, but also taking one with meals that would be more histamine producing. So with each meal, unless breakfast is something really clean like a functional food, taking it to degrade any histamine so we don't provoke that migraine. And so we really have seen good shift approaching it this way. And this is what's so nice about community, is that we have a place to gather and to think about next steps, because once that foundational part is in place, what we know is that probably 80% of our patients will have a significant amount of improvement with that. But it's the fine tuning from there that can often be the more difficult piece. So being able to bounce ideas off one another, see what we have worked for others out there, it is a really assuring place in terms of a resource to have. Even being able to tell our patients that we're going to consult with other colleagues and experts and put our brains together to see what we can do in terms of best outcomes. It is a really nice thing to have. And I think one of the major things that people enjoy about Origins Incubator is this community as a source of reassurance.